Hello and welcome to the Peak Endurance Podcast. My name is Isobel Ross and I'm the coach at Peak Endurance Coaching. Episode 187 is an interview with Meghan Canfield. Now, Meghan and I last spoke in episode 58, which is forever ago, where we spoke about how she's been so successful in ultra running for so long, well into her 50s. And then she messaged me recently because I'd posted about wanting people to, record what their lessons from 2022, basically the last podcast, okay? And she sent me a copy of her article that she had recently written for Ultra Running magazine. I'll post this article with my social media posts when putting out this pod. So if you just got it on your feed, check out, Insta or Facebook for the podcast. Anyway, and what basically she wrote about, because I don't want to give it all away, is the effects of getting older on running. And so therefore what we did was we talked about the side effects of, or not the side effects, the effects of getting older on running, the effects of menopause, and why it should be okay to talk about both of these things and not kind of hidden away as if, it's not really happening. We should not be embarrassed or ashamed of getting older and potentially slower. It's a fact of life that will actually happen to everyone. Even if you're young and fast at the moment, you will eventually become older. It's the way it is, sadly. Or not sadly, because, there's benefits to different parts of your life. And all of life is a rich experience to be enjoyed. And, there's ups and downs to each part of life. I'm personally older now and it was great when I was running faster, but also my life was really hard back then, really tough. And now life is a lot more cruisy and a lot more easy. So, it's life ebbs and flows, but it's not something that we should be, like I said, embarrassed of. I know it's something I used to think, I don't want to tell people how old I am, because basically we worry that people will judge us as being too old or something like that. No, I think, screw it. I am what I am and I'm the age that I am. And I should be proud of that. And that especially the fact that I'm still out there running, doing the thing, and enjoying being active. So I hope this gives you, some inspiration for if you are an older athlete like myself and Meghan, or if you are looking ahead to the future. And, there's still a lot of scope for doing lots of different things. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast by listening. Rating, reviewing and sharing also helps more people find the podcast and actually grows the audience. So you're actually helping when you do those things. And it also helps when I'm contacting people to be interviewed, because they look at the reviews and think about those sorts of things. Of course, you can also go to my YouTube channel, to see the video recordings of the podcast. And another thing, please remember to support those people and that support this podcast. Health and High Performance, who help you with all your running, injury and niggle needs. Hopefully you don't have any. I'm personally a believer it's always best to get anything sorted straight away, even if it ends up being nothing. At least then you know and you don't have to stress about it. But mainly so it doesn't become worse, so you don't do something silly. Also, Peak Chocolate, who make the best chocolate for athletes. The caffeine chocolate is great during races as it isn't too sweet, which I find is an issue for me, and it gives you the pick-me-up you need. Get 15% off at checkout with the code Isobel Ross, all caps, one word, Isobel with a no. Also, there is a new feature. I think it was on Spotify or on Audible, not really sure, and Meghan can't remember, but she recorded a question, and you can hear that now. Now, I messaged her to find out the rest of the question that got cut off. Basically, she wanted to know the longest run I did before Coast to Cozzy. The longest run I did was about 60 Ks, 3 weeks before the race. I had done a few weeks before that of double days with about 40 to 50 Ks, followed the next day by around 20 to 30. I've been running for a long time. Well, 15 years or so. It's long enough. So, it's not like I'm needing to build a base or anything like that. I've got a pretty solid base. And I've never, certainly in recent years, haven't had to take any too long a time off, except for just recently, in saying that. But yeah, such is life. I don't think it is necessary to do huge runs in the lead up, as basically you get so tired, if you're doing, this really huge epic run and yeah, it looks great on Strava, but then you're so tired you can't really do the next week of training because basically it's like recovering from a race, essentially. But in saying that, it's all very individual. And if I was planning for an athlete, it would depend a lot on their run and injury history, okay? Because, of course, we want to minimize the chance of injuries. But basically, for a 243-kilometer run, you don't need to do a 100K run in the last few weeks just to, give you confidence, because you don't want to leave your race out there on the training roads. I've always been a big believer in saving my race for race day. And I've always been a big believer in I am not here to win training. What's the point in winning training? Some people want to go out and win training. They've got to go the fastest, the furthest, the longest, whatever it is in training. Then come race day, they're so shattered, and they've put so much pressure on themselves that they crumble. So I've been always a believer in leaving my absolute best effort for race day. In saying that, I still always worked hard, and some of the sessions I did were incredibly hard back in the day, but I still always believed in saving my absolute ultimate effort for race day, because race day is race day and training is training. Training is preparing you for racing. It's not racing. So enough of my rant about saving yourself. I hope your running training is going really well. And if you're in Australia, you're enjoying the summer heat. At least it's not freezing when we go out, and gotta love the extra daylight hours. That is the best, of course. All right. As always, thank you for listening. And I will speak to you, be in your ears next week. Ciao.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Megan, and welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to have you back on. Now, we last spoke, will be episode 186, and we last spoke in episode 58. I looked back.
Wow, yeah.
Yes, and we spoke then about your longevity in ultra running. Now, recently you wrote an article for Ultra Running magazine about you finding yourself in a prolonged off season. And you messaged me in regards to that after I asked for people's advice about running. Now, can you tell me a little bit about sort of what prompted you to write that article?
Well, it baffles me. It doesn't baffle me, but every day I feel like I think about this, and it's like I'm over the hill. And it's like, wait a minute,
So can I just ask for a second, how old are you?
I'm 61.
61. Okay.
61. It took me a long time to get over the hill. And, every day's it got a little bit of mystery to it, but it's not very exciting mystery. It's more like, how slow am I going to feel today? How tired am I going to feel today? How unmotivated? I used to run probably most of my runs by myself. Long runs, if I couldn't find company, not a problem. Or go to the track, do some massive workout, great. And I find that I really have to call up a friend if I'm going to get out the door. It's like
just to get motivation,
just to get going. And a lot of that, if not most of it, I think is the frustration of just not feeling like super great when I start running. It's sort of, creaky, clunky,
yeah,
and slower. And I think for a long time, I fought that slowdown. And so I was just trying to sort of make the ground move at the same rate as I have and what I'm used to, but that was getting harder and harder to do. And so instead of like just relaxing and slowing down and accepting that, it just got really, hard and not motivating. So it was definitely I had to really reevaluate my relationship with running and be accepting of where I am, and to accept that if I want to enjoy it, I'm going to have to just relax and slow down. I even get to a point where I'm telling myself, well, just pretend you're running with somebody slower than yourself. And then we're like, well, you are slower than yourself. Just run with yourself, you know? Because I mean, I love those runs when somebody slow calls up and says, hey, you want to go for an easy jog? I'm like, yes, it sounds wonderful.
So yeah, and when so you're 61, when because you that's why I spoke with you about your longevity, because I was amazed, in your 50s, the paces that you were running at, because certainly for me, I'm 52, but I've been starting to feel it already. And yet you seem to have, delayed that for so long. What sort of age was it when you started to feel it?
I would say in my mid 50s, I probably started to like really feel it more, like just doing a track workout, just seeing the seconds sort of add on to like doing an 800 meters or something. It's like, I used to be, 5 seconds faster. This feels really hard. I think if I look back, like my best marathon times were between age 40 and 50.
Okay, yeah.
But then they were steady in there. And then after I turned 50, I think I only have done one competitive marathon. And that was when I was 51. That was the Olympic trials. I had made it to the Olympic trials. And after that, I hadn't really trained for another road marathon. Not that I didn't like it. It's just I was more consumed with like the 100K on the roads and still doing 100 miles on the trails. And so in the 100K on the roads, I was actually still able to maintain the speed for that.
Yeah.
So even though my marathon times were going to probably slow down a little bit, the 100K was still, slower enough that I could kind of, in fact, my fastest 100K on the roads was when I was 51, I think. So,
nice.
And I maintained in there for a while.
Yeah.
But then in my late 50s, started to slow down for sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel that different.
So you still felt okay, your paces were slow, but you still felt okay within yourself. It's now that you're starting to feel the aches and pains and the clunkiness. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and just tired. I was just like, part of me just like wants to like, I just kind of want to retire, but I don't really want to do that.
So do you think the tiredness comes from having run for so long, no matter what your age is? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's potentially true for speed, perhaps. Getting later started in ultramarathoning. I was, 46, I think, when I ran Western States the first time.
Yeah.
And because there's a learning curve with a race like that, you can get faster every year, but it's not like you are faster. It's just you figured out how to race that course. And so you can cut time off doing that. I don't think I was particularly faster in general. And I suppose there's a school of thought that we have an amount of years that we can run, sort of. I don't know about competitively, but like maybe it's 30 years. And I've been running for 30 years. So maybe that's why I'm starting to dwindle off. I'm not sure if that's true. I would say it has more to do with how our heart rates slow down. Our maximum heart rate comes down as we age.
Yeah.
There are some fancy formulas out there, and I don't know, they're probably based on men, but like
probably
every year over the age 50, you're going to lose a heartbeat or something like that.
Yeah.
So I know that my maximum heart rate has come down. So my, lactate thresholds, lower. So even, trying to try to do a VO2 max, I don't even want to try it. It just sounds awful. But the other piece of that is, and I'm so glad this is getting more attention, is menopause.
Yeah.
There's, so many myths about menopause, and there's, numbers of, I kind of think it's like when someone said you need to drink 8 glasses of water a day, it's like someone just made that up. They didn't. It
I
sounds like
know,
a good
that's what I
idea.
often wonder, where did they get that number from?
It was just somebody made it up. Well, it seems like a good idea. So yeah, let's do that. So menopause, I guess you've reached menopause supposedly when it's been a year has gone by since your last period. And that's like, okay, now you are menopausal. You're not perimenopausal anymore. You're menopausal. And then I think then it's like, and for the next 5 years, you'll probably, at that point, you will be done. And I will say that last fall, I was 60, is actually when I feel like, okay, I think I actually am all the way done now. I don't think I have any estrogen left. I was just like, and so I learned more about estrogen, like that we have estrogen receptors throughout our body, and it's not just, our reproductive system.
Yeah.
And I did know that for bone health. And I found out I have osteoporosis of the spine, which runs in my family. It was not, it wasn't, I expected that.
Yeah.
I totally expected that. And so I am on hormone therapy for that. But I'm also on it because I felt so awful for a while. Running was so hard. And I was developing more and more anxiety and sleep. I didn't realize my sleep was bad until I started taking estrogen and progesterone and started sleeping really well.
And did it help with the anxiety as well going on?
Yes. And even that's still a little touch and go, but for the most part, it's a lot better. And I've never had mental illness. I've never been an anxious person. I know it doesn't mean you are an anxious person. It doesn't, they don't actually go together necessarily. It's like the difference between being a little depressed and actually having depression,
Yeah. Yeah.
But anxiety is more like, I've got some anxiety today, but I don't have a lot of, there's no mental health issues there. But I do know, the more I've read is all these symptoms that women have that are onset with menopause. And I'm glad that there's so much more attention being paid to that. I think some of it too is that women who are older than me, and there weren't as many athletic women, let's say in their 70s, that had athletic lives. And I think a lot of that goes back to, for this country, for Title IX, which is when all of the athletic programs in the country, for every boys' sport or men's sport, there had to be an equal number of positions for women to play sport.
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, that's when that had passed. It was in the 70s. And suddenly I could not only play volleyball and track, I could play basketball too, because there had to be another sport. Yes. And so I was able to play basketball, volleyball, and track throughout high school. And I don't, before that, there wasn't as much opportunity. So women 10 years older than me there were probably few of them that had athletic lives and went through menopause without complaining, not, thinking about it too much. But now we're staying athletic for years and years. And then we reach this point where just because we can't have children anymore, our lives kind of suck,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that there's more and more voices coming out about it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of been, like with periods, it's those things where certainly when I was younger, you just didn't talk about any of that sort of stuff, and now it's so much more spoken about and young people feel more comfortable, which is great. But I think we also need to learn that it's okay to talk about, as well, especially like you say with menopause, because there haven't been these active women going through it. And as far as I know, I haven't started menopause at all, perimenopause or anything like that, but I know it's coming because it's inevitable. Yes. And I want to be prepared and make sure that I know all the things I need to do, because there are certain things you can do to help, obviously. Yeah. I mean, you can't stop it, but just to minimize the symptoms and that sort of stuff. Right. And I think, that's why it's so important that we talk about it, and don't make it such a mystery for women.
Right. Because it is kind of a mystery when it's
It
happening.
is. Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really hard on a lot of women. And I would say it wasn't hard on me emotionally. I didn't become an angry person because of being frustrated, or I didn't really suffer hot flashes except in bed at night. And so I thought I'd sort of breeze through it until my running fell off the rails. And I'm like, this can't be right. This just can't be right. So I actually read, I'm going to not know the author's name because it's been too long, the book called Estrogen Matters. And a friend turned me on to that because I said, I can understand and I can accept slowing down by degree as I get old. That's just going to be part of it.
Yeah.
But I can't hardly run up a hill. And that just seems wrong. And so she handed me the book. She said, you need to read this. And it really demystifies and debunks a lot of the myths that we've been told regarding hormone replacement. Okay. And after I read that, I called my doctor and I said, I need some hormones. Can I please have some hormones? So yeah, it's I'm definitely still slower. That's not going to change. But I feel
that happens for anyone getting older. I mean,
absolutely,
it's inevitable. Absolutely. So yeah. But yes, certainly menopause will have a bigger effect. And I'm really glad that the hormone therapy is working, you hear mixed stories about that too. So
yeah, it's something that definitely warrants a conversation with your doctor. And if your doctor poo-poos you, then it's time to find a different doctor, because we are the customer and we are paying a lot of money to feel better. It's just like, and it's not that hard.
And I mean, I know there was some studies done a number of years ago that showed that there was a higher cancer risk, but they find that that's not necessarily the case. So
well, and that study was actually statistically irresponsibly reported. Those words might be a little bit mixed up, but that's what this book, Estrogen Matters, really goes into, how those studies were conducted and how the statistics were not meaningful. So that was like, you got to be kidding, because I have a background in science and analyzing data, and when I saw how this data was presented to the public, it was shameful. And it did such a disservice to so many women.
Yeah, because so many women have not gone on to it for that reason, because of that one study.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I was one of them until I read that. I'm like, heck.
Well, I'll have to get that book and have a look at it. That sounds interesting. I'll look it up, and I'll put the link in the show notes too. So so anyone can have a look. Now, in your article, you wrote some lessons that you have learned, and I just put out my podcast with lessons from 2022. So I thought we'd go through the different lessons that you learned, and maybe you can elaborate for the listeners. And your first one was, and you've said a little bit about this already, changing your expectations versus lowering your expectations. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So as a competitor, I have always had a pretty high bar for myself. It's just how I operate. I don't expect to reach my top goal at any given race. I put them up there really, really high, and I work as hard as I can to get there. And maybe 1 in 10 times I'll hit that high bar, but that means I know I could do it. I don't want to have a lower bar just because, if I lower it, I'll get it every time. That's not exciting to me. That's not challenging to me. And to me, the most successful feeling is when I cross a finish line and I know I did everything I could. And maybe I'll get that goal, maybe not. But the important thing is I had it up there, I went for it, and I'm trashed at the end. So I don't want to say, well, I just have to lower my bar now. I want to just have a different expectation. And maybe that means focusing more on what success is at this point. Maybe it's, I don't know, really doing better at fueling during a race, because I've still sort of not done that well at that. And maybe I need to just let's change this expectation that you're going to really start nailing these things that you've sort of pushed to the side. I mean, that would be just one example. Or make 5 new friends.
Yeah.
At Western States last year, one of the gals I've known for many years, Erica Hoagland, we were climbing up the first climb, and she says to me, when I run Western States, I usually try to find a buddy to run with. It just really helps me get through the high country or whatever. And she said, you want to try that? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And that's something I wouldn't have done in the past.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I just need to focus on me. I need, I want top 10, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we ran into Casey Lichtai, and the 3 of us basically ran together for 62 miles.
Oh, wow.
We were kind of going back and forth and in and out, but we'd have lots of long conversations. And so that's kind of like a new expectation for me. Is like, okay, in this race, let's see if you can, make 3 new friends and work together on some of this stuff. Something to keep the joy in it, even if it's a different way to look at it.
So you think you'll keep racing though?
I love going to the races. I still push myself. I just don't have the same sort of time expectations.
Yeah.
But I do expect to get to the finish line and feel like crap. So that's not going to change. Yeah.
Isn't that funny that that's what you're actually wanting? Yeah.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I paced a friend the last 40 miles of Western States, which was exhausting, but I was still like missing that I wasn't completely trashed,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different kind of exhausted feeling. You're exhausted because you've been out there, but yeah, that trashed feeling is something special, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And then your next one was be an example to aging athletes.
Mm-hmm. So that was part of the don't whining part, or don't whine. Just still be out there.
Yeah.
Don't just go into hiding because, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to place or whatever. Having been in the sport for so many years, I have a reputation, and I have a lot of people who follow me and look up to me. Yeah. I don't want that to go away, because we all need people to look up to. I have a lot of people I look up to. And if they disappeared, I'd be really sad that they felt like they had to leave the scene.
Yeah.
They weren't performing at their, top speeds anymore.
Yeah. 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 And so I guess showing people that it is acceptable to, change your, like you said, changing your expectations and showing how you can be successful, whatever success is to you, doing that as well.
Yeah.
I guess. Is that kind of what you mean by being an example?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, she's still out there having fun.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do, because I love races. They're fun. They're really fun. They're really hard, but they're super fun. Yeah. And
then you said put more emphasis on what you can do for the sport versus what the sport can do for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so many years I've gotten so much from going to races, and I love to volunteer. I've done that many, many years, but I can do more of that as I race less, as I train less. I can take more time to volunteer at races and away from races too. I volunteer at one camp a year, but I feel a little sheepish saying it, even because the woman who puts it on throws so many hours into it for this. It's a camp for veterans.
Okay.
Yeah. And she throws her heart into that. And I volunteered there, but like I said, it feels like peanuts compared to what she does. I'm a volunteer for the USA Track and Field, executive council for Mountain Ultra Trail. So I put a fair bit of time into that. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like I just want to be one of those people who you can call up and I'll talk to you about running and give you advice and show up and help you out at a race or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to, sweep races and that sort of stuff because, you're still there and you're with all the people, but there's no pressure. We're certainly not going that fast. And it's
right. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, so there's always, and I agree. And I think regardless of what stage of running you're in, I think it's really important to volunteer and give back as well, and I think you can get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And also if you're injured or something like that, I think that's a good way of keeping contact with
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah. I've always been that way about running. If I'm injured, I get really excited when I see people running. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they're having so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get jealous, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still good, yeah, to see other people
It
enjoying it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange, honestly, because I think we're a very weird breed. We
I think
we
so.
we we like to watch people run. It's
Yeah.
like there's no ball. There's no.
I know.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's,
No,
it's not
I
like a
agree.
race. Yeah, but I
Um,
love it.
and then you said, do not whine, whimper, or bore my friends with all of these details.
It's so easy to like, how are you? Well, I'm just terrible. I'm
Yeah.
old. I can't tie my shoes anymore. And, which I could do.
Well, you find that too. You get really stiff in the lower back, do you?
Yeah, like I go, get my foot up here. See if I can tie
I
my
know.
shoe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like hearing other people complain about anything, honestly. So,
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
and we all have to do this.
Yeah.
There's no way to get out of it.
No.
So, but yeah, and it's all almost like having a kid. You don't know what it's like until you have a kid, right?
Yes,
You can be
that's
the most
right. Yes.
excellent parent in the world until you have a baby. And I
Yeah.
feel like there's no advice to give somebody younger. You just
No.
got to wait for it.
No, that's right. I agree. I still remember my dad laughing at me when I was saying all the things I would still be able to do when I had kids. And then once I had them, I went, oh, that's why he was laughing at me. So, yeah, and you're right. It is exactly the same with aging because, in my head, I'm just going to be awesome. But,
Yeah.
my body tells me otherwise sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with the complaining, because what happens when you complain is you just focus on it more anyway. It's bad for yourself, let alone your friends.
Yes. Yeah. 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 It's not easy, honestly. I find it's easy for me not to complain out loud,
Yeah.
but I do complain to myself a lot.
Yes. See, but that's probably, not the best for you either, though, is it?
It's not. It's not. And I struggle with having positive things to say to myself. And that's also like, wait a minute, I've always been this positive person about myself. And now I'm like, so it's a little hard. So I'm waiting for the sunshine to come back and hopefully that'll cheer me back up. But
yeah. Well, I mean, that's always part of it too, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your last one was remind myself or yourself frequently that you live a very privileged life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maybe not as much as a privileged white man, but still. Yeah. I mean, I live in a very safe community.
Yeah.
I can go trail running, which, like I think I say in there, it's like, what's the purpose?
Yes.
I mean, am I doing anything really beneficial for the world? But it could be, if something really bad happens, I'm fit, I'm ready, I can go help. Yes. So
that's right.
And I mean, there's a lot of people who do sit at desks all day, and it is important for them to move their bodies because, healthy people are going to make a healthy planet. And, it does matter. It does matter if you think
it does. Yeah.
On the surface, it's like, I don't know that that's really important.
But even like you said, being a good role model for people who are getting older, that you don't, my sister often has said to me, oh, Isobel, you're too old to still be running. You should be sitting on the couch drinking wine, And how is that good for my health? And, like being a role model saying, no, as we get older, it's actually okay to stay active and it's actually a good thing. And
very good. Yeah.
And it's better for your health,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sometimes I don't know, I'll be moving a lot of heavy stuff around or for the first time ever, I put Christmas lights on my house. This is a
well
new
done.
And it's like, I had to get a really high ladder and I'm sticking these things up. I'm like, I'm a 61-year-old woman on a ladder, and a lot of people would say, oh, you're too old to be on a ladder. You might fall and break something. And I'm like, but I don't feel that, I don't feel that I'm being stupid.
Yeah.
No. There's like 61 climbing ladders. Yeah, no.
Really? See, I wouldn't think that's too old to climb a ladder.
No, and it's not just the state of mind. It's like some people at 61 are too old because they haven't taken care of themselves. And that's what I want to avoid, having to be taken care of.
Yes.
I think that would be a sad existence.
I think that would be very sad. And I think, that's why it's so important to keep moving, is
Yeah.
because, it begets more movement.
Yeah. And I this just popped into my head, and I'm sure I know this is ego, which is fine, whatever. I'm just trying to be honest.
Yeah.
Is I've been aged out, I believe, aged out of having good contracts ever
Uh,
as a runner.
yeah.
And I feel like it would be so great if there was one or two companies who would like start sponsoring older athletes like
Mm.
myself that are out there still setting an example, that has a name, people are following. And I still, I want to travel around the world and race, and it gets harder and harder for me because now I have to
Yeah.
pay for it. And I'm like,
Well, and when you think about it, it's crazy that they don't, because if you think about the demographic, like they've got a lot more free time.
yeah,
And generally at 60-ish, you're still working. So you've got money because you're not spending it on little kids, you know.
exactly.
So
That's what I keep saying. There's a
it
market
seems
out there.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
know. And it's always up, the bright and shiny, new pennies.
Yes.
And so I wish there would be that one or two sponsors who are like, yeah, we want to start sponsoring some older athletes who are not only examples to people their age, but younger people coming up. There's probably not a lot of older people looking at the younger people and being inspired. We're
No,
being,
definitely not.
we're enjoying it, like
Yeah.
we're good fans, but we're also like, well, but I can never do that,
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
but if they look at me, maybe they'll go buy a pair of shoes.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I think it's crazy, like, because it's a huge market, really.
Yeah,
Like,
I
if they're
think.
just thinking financially, then it would actually make sense.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I agree.
yes. So hopefully,
Yeah.
that'd be nice,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? So,
Yeah.
you know, um, when you say you love to race, so you are going to stick with racing. Like for me at the moment, I'm like, oh, do I stick with racing? Do I go for adventures? A lot more older athletes go for FKTs and that sort of stuff. What sort of things do you think will be in your running future?
I think still racing. I find that that's the most motivating for me is, put a race on the calendar and get excited about it and actually have the focus to train for it. And then as adventure wise, I do work for a company called Threshold Expeditions, and it's very small, boutique company, and we are doing guided trail adventures. And yeah, it's a bit, well, it's a bit like Backroads, which is a bike touring company.
Yeah.
Only we're much smaller. But it's like, we had 3 trips this year. The first one was to Colorado on the Hard Rock course.
Oh, nice.
We did some trail running around Santa Fe, New Mexico, up in the Pecos Wilderness, and then we've done Big Bend National Park in Texas. And each of those has a different theme. Like the Colorado one's an endurance theme, and the Santa Fe is arts and culture, and the Big Bend is a mindfulness.
Yeah.
So, but the clients get basically 5-star hotels, amazing restaurants. Then they don't have to think about anything except showing up with their shoes and a hydration pack.
Oh,
We provide everything else.
Yeah.
And we take care of them, and we cater to their pace. And so we keep it small so that so far, most people just want to hike, which is, and it's great. We're just all there for them. And we give them the added comfort of they don't have to navigate.
Yeah.
And we're also wilderness medical, first aid wilderness, all those words to help keep them safe out on the trails.
And you said you cater for all paces, like, and a lot of them hike, but what about if there is a faster person?
My thinking is most faster people wouldn't really be interested in this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that are faster or competitive are probably more likely going to go to a training camp.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Or figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
And I'll put it this way, most of the faster people are young. and don't have a lot of money.
Yes, true. You see, once
And
again, we're
these are
talking about that demographic. Yep.
exactly, and these are expensive,
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
can imagine they would be, but I reckon it would also be worth the money because there's a lot to be said of just rocking up and doing your thing and
yep,
everything's looked after.
exactly. So it's a
Especially
lot of fun.
a lifetime of organizing family and everything. It's
Yeah.
nice not to have to do that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome to do that because you get to enjoy that too. I mean, I know you're looking after them, but you get to meet all those
Oh,
people and because I'm guessing you're staying at the same place, so
yeah. We
yeah,
have our meals together. Yeah, we spend most of the time together. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really good. Yeah.
And so, what races are next for you?
I have signed up for a 50K in Auburn, California. It's called the Formidable, and the
Okay.
four is FOUR. It's got four really big climbs in it.
I
And
like
I
that.
did it a couple of years ago, but I moved away from that area a couple of years ago. So I like to go back and visit friends and run that course. And it's also warmer.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Warmer in California in February. So I've got that on my calendar. And tomorrow is the lottery drawing for UTMB. So I
Oh,
have my 4 stones in there.
have you done that before? I can't remember.
I have done
Yeah,
that before, yes. And I want to go back.
yeah,
It's epic. It's just so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Very, very hard. If I don't get into that, I I've been thinking about doing Spartathlon.
Oh, okay.
So I would need to do something silly like go run on a track for 100 miles to see if I can get a time that's good enough for an automatic qualification.
Gee, and Spartathlon's hard.
Yeah, yeah. And I
But
would
that's what you
definitely,
love, so that's great.
yeah, I would have to rely on my friend Pam Smith, who's done 24-hour stuff, and she's very much a scientist about it, and Bob Hearn, and like help me get my head around training for a slower pace
Yes, yeah,
and being consistent and not and learning how to hold back for because it's 150 miles
yeah,
on road. It's not like a trail one where you know go up and down and
yeah, that's right.
hang out at aid stations and stuff. But it sounds pretty.
I did a road one recently. It was 243 kilometers, so over 100 miles.
Yeah.
And it was mainly bitumen, and it's so much harder on the body.
It really is.
Yeah.
You gotta
So,
run as lightly as you can. No pounding the pavement
no,
after a
that's
while.
nice. Yeah. Oh, well, I reckon that would be awesome if you could get into that. That would be
Yeah.
brilliant. And of course, then the added difficulty is the heat as well. You've got to.
I tolerate heat pretty well
Okay.
relative to I'd say average person. I'm pretty small, so I have a good surface area to dissipate the heat, and I don't generate a lot of heat.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing for that. All righty. Well, now, do you have any like if you want to just for some final tips for some, firstly for women who might be, going through perimenopause, do you have any tips for them, maybe?
I would say start talking to your doctor, your healthcare professional, as soon as you start having symptoms and see if they're amenable, to trying things out or, doing blood tests or something. Just try to have somebody on your side before it gets worse.
Yeah.
But do pay attention to all those things because they're real. It's not all in your head. And it matters. You matter. And you just because you can't have children anymore doesn't mean that you don't have any purpose or,
that's right.
usefulness,
Yeah. And we shouldn't have to just suffer, like,
Right.
Why?
Exactly. Because we don't have.
Right. No,
We
that's
don't.
right.
Yeah. Consider picking up one of the hobbies that you've put aside for all the years. And if you find that you don't want to run as much or work out as much, pick up your old music instrument. That's what I did.
Yeah.
So I belong to a community band here. I play the flute and I play the tenor and alto saxophone, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I don't run as many miles, but I will make up that time by sitting with my instrument and practicing, which is a lot for your mental health too.
Yeah, and look, that's a big thing because, running, especially ultras and training, takes up a lot of time. And
Yeah.
if you're not doing that, what do you do?
Exactly.
You don't want to be sitting around. Yeah.
All right. Who wants to do housework? Come on.
Yeah. No, I don't do that. Against my
I don't do.
religion.
Yeah. No, I don't do enough of it, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So that's a really good point because certainly I've had, this race and then I've had been a bit unwell. So I've been doing a lot less. And it's like, I'm bored. I'm sitting at home like
Yeah.
bored. And
Yeah.
that's not good for my mental health either. So,
Yeah.
that's a really good tip. All right. What about just tips on, male or female runners who are hitting that point where they're getting a bit slower? Any tips to help them with that?
Yeah. Go ahead and accept it. Just try not to fight it too
Yes.
hard.
Yeah.
Meet yourself where you are.
Yeah.
Not where
I
you
always say that, run with the body you've got,
Yeah. And stop comparing yourself
Yeah.
to how you were a year ago or yesterday or 5 years ago, because 5 years from now, you're going to look back and say, dang, when I was 61, I was still killing it, and now I'm out here on my
true. Yeah. Yeah. That's 100% true. We compare to how we were, and then we look back and go, oh my God, I was actually okay. It wasn't that bad. So,
What was I complaining about?
yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And the accepting bit is the hardest bit, I'm struggling with that at the moment because I'm still looking back at what I used to do and go, oh, I should be able to do that. But it's like,
Well, I think too, it's important, and this would be for the 30-year-olds and early 40s, is appreciate where you are.
yes, I didn't enough. I didn't enough. I kept thinking,
we were
I'm going to
striving.
get faster. I've got to get
Yeah.
better, and didn't actually enjoy the moments,
Yeah.
when I got them.
Yeah. I have to look back and say, dang, that was pretty good.
I know. Now I look back and go, God, if only I realized how fast I was.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So a very, very good friend of mine, I was complaining to her one day, and she said, just give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my mantra anymore. It's like, just give yourself some grace.
Actually, that's what I've been saying, those exact words this last week or so. Because instead of just beating myself up, because it achieves nothing, it just makes me miserable when you beat yourself up.
It does. Absolutely. Yeah.
And like you say, you can't force it anymore. Like you just can't. So yeah. No, that's really good advice. So appreciating it while you're younger for sure, and accepting it now, and it's part of life, and it's all
accept
gonna go through it.
Yeah, accept it, but keep moving. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up the love of running or the love of movement, love of being outside. Just accept that it's different.
Yes. Yeah. And that's it. And I still think do the track workouts and do all those sorts of things because you want to hold on to the speed that you've got.
Yeah.
Don't just go, oh, well, I'm just going to run all slow now, but still do the speed work, but understand that you're not 35 anymore or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. But you're out there.
Yeah, that's right. And certainly compared to a lot of people, our age, we're doing this so much more.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And, I'm really glad that you did give that as advice. And because we do need to get this discussion going, because not only is menopause not talked about enough, I don't think aging is talked about enough. It's kind of embarrassing to age,
Yeah.
And it's what happens if you are lucky enough to keep living.
Yeah, right. We're on the side of the dirt. Good.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not, I used to be embarrassed about my age going, oh my God, I'm so old. But now it's like, no, I'm going to be proud of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you're going to shock people.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
You're in your 40s. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's, and so, and we want to show people that, you can keep doing this.
Yeah. And it's fulfilling. Yes.
Yeah. It is. And so thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us. And
Sure.
you know, let's hope it does open it up for people and we see more older athletes out there crushing it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you,
All right.
Isabel.
Thanks so much.